My name is Amari Gibson. I'm the founder and director of The Reading Room. I'm the moderator for the conversation tonight with Berlin, Sharonda Johnson, and Avalon, who are participants in the This Way exhibition. In case you aren't familiar, The Reading Room is a Black art reference library that I built for my personal collection of books by and about Black artists. This is the second physical iteration of the library, and it's supported by CAM and the Houston Freemanstown Conservancy. It's going to be closing on February 29th, so if you're interested in staying in touch or attending programs throughout the course of this month, please tap in before the collection hits the road and travels for the rest of the year. I'm really excited to be here, and I wanted to give a little bit of context about the program. The title of the program is an ode to the Mother Ward. This is the first of the Reading Room's Black History Month programming, so it felt important to start with thinking about Black Houston. Freemanstown is the center of Black Houston and the center of so many things that we've not given enough recognition to, so just putting that out there. I contributed a piece to the exhibition entitled it An Ode to the Mother Ward. I've sourced and assembled 3 volumes worth of visual material and text that thinks about the truth and reality of Freemanstown, but also positions this truth within the larger constellation of Black culture, social, political history. The story of Freemanstown begins in 1865, immediately following Juneteenth. Newly freed families migrated to the once uninhabitable land in Fourth Ward, and they literally paved the road toward their collective freedom with self-determination and grace. By 1880, Freemanstown was home to 95% of Black Houstonians. By the 1930s, it had produced over 400 Black-owned businesses. But like many historically Black neighborhoods and Freemanstowns across the US, our Freemanstown has been ravaged by time and has suffered from not only municipal neglect, but gentrification and all of the sort. Freemanstown today is Houston's first heritage district and is home to 7 sites that have been internationally recognized by the United Nations Cultural Agency, UNESCO. And it's no understatement that Freemanstown is important, but so much of its history has gone unrecognized. And this exhibition and the larger partnership between CAM and HFTC is working to change that. So big shout out to Mitch Stevenson for bringing together 12 artists to think about the past, present, and future of Freemanstown, and I hope you all feel enlightened after this conversation. Before we begin our conversation, I'd like to invite Avalon to ground us with one of her beautiful poems, and we'll get to know the artist a little bit better.
A story of freedom. If a town could speak, what would it say? As red bricks lead to the sky and pave the way, this town would tell a story of freedom, of bravery and glory unfaded, of history and heritage we're saving. In 1865, freedom became alive. It was born in Galveston, but in Houston it survived. Freemanstown is a land of free, a Black creation, Black liberation, Black education. Jack Yates and Richard Allen know what I mean. What does it mean to be a trailblazer? To have built a town where you're free to work, free to live, and free to dream. This town is worth remembering. This town is worth preserving. Freemanstown was the start of Black Houston, and it came from the heart of the holiday we're observing. A heart that will never stop. A heart that beats through the Gregory School and through Antioch. In 1865, freedom became alive. It lives on today at Bethel Baptist. It lives on today at the corner of Elgin or Allen. It lives on today at the official historical marker. It lives on today every Saturday at the Freemanstown markets. This story of freedom is of past and present. It is as new as it is old. The story of Houston Freemanstown is waiting to be told. Our relationship with Freemanstown, I guess, starts from moving there. I was born in Houston, and then we lived in like downtown area, and then we moved there when I was like a couple months old, I guess, so I like grew up there. Me and my brother did, so yeah, I guess that's where it started, just being there. But also, I guess because I'm 20 years old now, So like living there, and like my family like isn't from there. I guess like living there, I wasn't always fully aware of like the cultural and like historical significance of it. I mean, my parents were, and like they told me like from time to time, like, oh, you know, these bricks, they were built by freed enslaved people, you know, like this is important and stuff. But I felt like I knew it, but I wasn't really able to like feel that connection until I left Freemanstown and I started going to Rice University. Second semester of my freshman year, I was a part of a research project for Freemanstown. I saw this application for a job for like a student research worker, and it was for Freemanstown, and I was like, what? That's crazy. Like, I know what that is. So I signed up for it, and I got the job, and most of the work that I did was focused around colleges in the area, and how it was actually called Houston Junior College for Negroes, and eventually that moved and that expanded and it changed names and it moved to Third Ward and is now what we know as TSU, Texas Southern University today. So I followed that, and then I also just did like generic research too, just about I guess like the start of it and like important figures there and stuff like that. So when I first started doing research for Freemanstown, that's where I feel like I was able to really make connections. Like I remember learning about the history of Bethel Baptist Church, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like it was burnt down in a fire, and that's why it looks the way it looks like today. Today, it used to be a church, and now it's kind of like this open garden park area space, but growing up I always thought it was a dog park because that's where people take their dogs and stuff. So it was just really interesting to like I guess learn of its history and then be like, wow, that's kind of disrespectful. But yeah, I think just researching it and then coming home and like being able to make those connections and stuff, that was really powerful for me. And then also just as a writer as well, I've been into poetry ever since high school. I would say HSPVA, High School for Performing and Visual Arts, and I studied creative writing there for 4 years. And then my senior year of high school and going into my freshman year at Rice, I was the Houston Youth Poet Laureate. So I would like go around the city reciting poetry and stuff like that. And once I started research for Freemanstown, that's when I started also like writing about Freemanstown too, because part of being like poet laureate was also not just creating like any creative work or poetry, but also writing work about the city. And I was like, wow, this is really like important information about the city that more people need to know about, and a lot of people don't know. So yeah, like that's, I guess, would be my relationship with Freemanstown now.
You know, my early connection to Freemanstown is my grandmother used to have a house over around the corner from College Park Memorial Cemetery, and then early on when I was like 3, maybe 4 years old, maybe even 3, yeah, like 3, 4, super young. My memory of that time is like super vivid just because of like what we were going through as a family. I used to get out of like, you know, daycare or pre-K or whatever it was, and my mom used to drive over to my grandmother's house every day after work. And you know, we would just hang out, and I would hang out with my uncle, and we would just chill in the neighborhood and, you know, just do normal things, and I didn't know where we were or what it was. And eventually a bunch of people started selling their homes, and a lot of them were getting like torn down. And eventually my grandmother, the house that she was staying in, got sold, it got torn down, and they were getting ready to build new houses on it, which are the houses in the neighborhood today. So that's my early experience with, you know, 4-4 Freemanstown, going around riding my bike through the neighborhood, up and down Allen Parkway. And then, you know, after that, my grandmother moved right in front of College Park Memorial Cemetery. And so I used to walk through that cemetery, go to the corner store on like West Clay and West Dallas, like, you know, not knowing, just like super, you know, impressionable, not really understanding that, you know, Jack Yates and other founders of Freemanstown are in that cemetery and buried. To me, it didn't even feel like a cemetery. It was just like, because it didn't look like it. It didn't look anything close to what it looks like today after, you know, the restoration and stuff. Back in the 90s, like 96, 98, like it was just dirt and grass and just headstones that were just like left, and you didn't know what it was. Yeah. And so, you know, that's my early connection to Freemanstown, and a lot of unknown, you could say. So, yeah, a lot of unknown and a lot of understanding now, like how it connects back. So, being a part of this exhibition, means a lot, and being able to dig into that, being able to dig into my history a little bit more, and challenge myself to push, through those things. So, that's my connection to Freemanstown. And then my work, my work prior to this exhibition, I really have to give it to like two people, one Mitch, and then another friend of mine who was my studio mate in LA. He really like got me into painting and got me into like creating art, like seriously. He was like, you can do it. I've always had like a weird connection to art because of my dad, and it kind of like lends to, this show was kind of like me letting that go and kind of like, all right, cool, my dad was an artist all his life. He's never been a part of my life. We have so many parallels, and a lot of things that he did in his life I stayed away from purposefully because I was like, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be that. We have the same name, like all this is like, it's too much. So for a long time I just stayed away from it, and then like Mitch, Soul, who I was who I shared the studio with, like really got me into just like not caring about that at all, just creating.
Growing up in Freemanstown, I always knew that Freemanstown was special, but I just didn't know what. I can remember walking the streets and seeing just buildings, just monumental buildings like everywhere, like big houses and things of that nature, and it was just, something was there. So of course some of the buildings were abandoned, but they were built and they had the symbolism. It just so many things that pointed to prominence that we just didn't know. And I often wonder if we did know what Freemanstown was when we were growing up there, could we have walked in our greatness? And so we had elders telling us that, we built these structures, we did the streets, but every time we encountered those elders, it was like, oh, they crazy. They would tell us, you can read the sun, moon, and the stars, like, 666, like that's not a devil sign, like that's you, that's carbon, that's melon, that's you, like that's your body, that's what makeup. And so when they're telling you that, you come from greatness, but you don't see it, you never around it. And so it was kind of hard, but they were so emotional and so impactful. It was like, and so I'm gonna tell y'all the story. So my mom was a party girl, and when she wanted to party, she would drop me off at Camp Logan Sandwich Shop. So Camp Logan Sandwich Shop was a space in Freemanstown where Miss Gladys House would have community meetings. And I can remember seeing maps of the community that Freemanstown wasn't on. And I was a kid, I was a small kid. And so my mom knew I would be safe there while she go out and had fun and partied in Freemanstown. So she left me with Gladys House and in the community meetings, and I used to see just maps and all kind of stuff. And so she was one who was like leading the charge to like tell us of the community that we were in, and that, of the greatness of our people. But it was nowhere in the history books, like, I mean, literally nowhere. And once you went to find information, so basically it was as if, you were just pulling it out the air when, it had to be something, because like we have these structures, we have these stories, and with our history, most time it's oral. So, we pass those things down from generation. And so a lot of things we do it ancestrally, not knowing. So like, gold teeth, those things. So, pouring out liquor, that's libations. And so like a lot of things we do is called, it is demonized and called ghetto and things of that nature. Just like, no, it's ancestral. We do things because it's embedded deep in our DNA, and it comes out and we have no idea. And so the way that we can all just, how everyone moves to our beat, because we are creation, like we are everything. And I'm just on this stage now, and I want every kid in Houston and every kid in the world to know about the greatness of the free men and women of Freemanstown. And the number one thing I love about my community is that we don't have a slave narrative. And so many times with our history, slave did this, slave did that, just to hear that this community was paid and bought by free men and women, like no slave narrative, so we can start with greatness. And I just love the fact that we can point to an instance in the community. So Freemanstown is the largest enslaved settlement of its kind in the United States still today. that we are the largest. And so the fact that we can go out and walk the brick streets, I can take you on a historic tour and you can see the 100-year-old homes, and you can actually see these structures, and we don't have plaques. We actually have these things. And so I often refer to Freemantown as the hidden gem of Houston, because if you don't know, and then you don't know, and then once it's unveiled to you, I mean, it just shines, and like you have to know more, and you have to do more to, you know, get the story out.
It's really beautiful listening to you talk about, or talk with such conviction and the power and the passion that you clearly had access to as a young person, right? Like you were young, sitting in community meetings, watching people organize at a very crucial time in the neighborhood's history to make sure that things were preserved, to make sure that people were aware, to make sure that the community was being mobilized around whatever the city was planning to do. I'm curious because you know the most, like we have 3 different generations kind of happening on the panel right now, right? I'm curious if you could give us a little bit of context, because the Rebirth in Action project, the partnership between CAM and HFTC, is not the first of its kind to come to Freemantown. What makes this particular project different in your experience?
Right,
as you understand it?
These just my little opinions, y'all, you know.
Speak your mind.
So, I just believe in, so I often say, I've lived through 10 failed master plans for my community. And not that one was good and one was bad and one was this or that, it's just that they were not complete plans. And so, first of all, we have to establish ourselves economically. That's first of all, you know, because, you know, we can't whine and beg for inclusion. Like, we have to establish ourselves economically. And once we do that, then we could be able to participate in different developments and things of that nature. And so with these failed master plans, it just was A, B, and then they'll jump to Z and come back to E, and then they might go back to A, or, you know, L, or we'll have a big gathering like this, and I'm just pouring my heart out to you, telling you what I want. You just, okay, and you go right out the door and do what I just said I didn't want to do. And so the idea was, with this particular project, I believe they brought all the top heads of the city together, with CAM, the Conservancy, the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, just like everyone that could, you know, because we have some of those bright minds, you know, sitting in here now, you know, everyone that could, you know, think of how can we merge an infrastructure project with historic preservation. And the catalyst was art. So with art can be anything. And the fact that CAM, you know, a 75-year-old institution, you know, I mean, historic, you can, if you just say the name CAM, you can just lay down and you can just, you know, do about just about anything. And so the fact that this institution really listened to this Houston Freemantown Conservancy and this group of superminds that they put together to actually highlight a community that has not been highlighted. And so, and another thing that I believe is different about this particular project, is because the monies are connected to certain amenities like Texas Antiquities are. And so, because they want to get this right, and so if we're not doing this right, then you won't get the money. And so this time, I believe that all our ducks are lined up in a row, and they have centered community. And so when I say centered communities, like, no, they don't have any pre-plans. And so the usual project, no, when I say they are actually listening to every complaint, even the ones that don't make sense, and we have to get better with that, y'all. You know, once we have people listening to us, we have to make sense. Like, you know, we have to get better with that. And so, you know, I shake, you know, I continue on. But the fact that it is actually community centered, and with that, you know, bringing in someone of my stature, because I have a connection to the community. So my job was to basically bridge the gap, because historically the city of Houston has been our biggest nemesis. The reason that our brick streets look like a Mitch-Mac quilt now is because the city of Houston allowed permits and different things to basically piece together, you know, on the brick streets. And so now we cannot act as if, you know, they are our savior, because they are not, you know, and we are not appreciative for what they're doing. They should have been done this, and now we're going to make sure that you do it right. So what we're not going to do is we're not going to glorify the same person that caused all the trouble. And so the idea is that this little neighborhood association with the groups that made, that we actually battled against the city of Houston and won, like took them to court and like literally won. It's like a whole David and Goliath. And so you wonder, like, why are those bricks still in the streets? Because we had a whole community, a whole city actually, that actually sacrificed everything to fight for them. So that's why things are still in the streets. That's why these structures are here. And so the city has realigned with us, hopefully, to basically highlight and what we have been dragged, you know, I mean, just fighting to hold on to it. And so now, once again, these are just my opinions. Now the city found a way to monetize it. Okay, so yeah, we have to make money. And so not only the city gonna make money, the community is gonna make money as well. And so we're not gonna get on our soapbox and we're not gonna beg for inclusion. We're gonna create ways like the historic walking tours that I designed. That was a way for my community to be involved in the direct tourism of Harrison Tourism that was going to come to the community. So my community can be directly paid, and I don't have to be paid through a middle party and things of that nature. And so we basically have to, I just feel like it was up to us to activate what was already there. And so since we have this, you know, highlight with the city, with the Houston Freemanstown Conservancy, with the Contemporary Art Museum, and so now it's up to us, the community, and the activists and people on the project team to actually get what is needed. And it's 1.5 miles of brick streets restored, the infrastructure up under corrected, and the bricks placed back in the street. Simple.
Simple. Obviously easier said than done, but
Yes.
simple, straight to the point. I want to stay on the bricks. Berlin.
Can I say something before you
Go
go
on.
there? I mean, that question was like, why is it working now? And I think what you just laid down is really why it's working. Like what you just said, like just so much. I mean, you connect to so many different people. You just quoted Kendrick Lamar, like did a bunch of other things, and like had this whole like soliloquy in one thing. And I'm fired up to do something about it. And that's why it's really working. Like, and I just want to not go past that and highlight the fact that the way you speak about Freemanstown and like the work that you do, the work that Priscilla do and everybody does is at the forefront of why it's working.
Sharonda was talking about the brick streets, right, being the focus of this project, the infrastructure, the preservation, and you made the bricks the core focus of your contribution to the exhibition. I'm wondering if you can talk about the work that you made, but also think about when you were first invited to participate in the exhibition, what came up for you? What was maybe the highlight from the walking tour that you went on? The things that you learned, how does all that kind of translate into what you created?
The main thing that, you know, on the walking tour that struck me to like focus on the bricks was, you know, when me and Sharonda was having a conversation, I had the pleasure of just having a one-on-one tour with Sharonda, which was great, you know, so and we stopped, you know, right in the middle of, you know, the main intersection of Freemanstown, and I just stopped. I was like, man, I had the main question that's been plaguing me, and it's still plaguing me today, is what would they say if they were here today? So like that's really the thing that really informed my work, and still kind of informs everything that I kind of think about now. Is like, if they were here today, what would they think about our progress? What would they say about our progress? What would they say if they were just here? Because like Sharonda said, they did all that in, you know, the late 1800s when it was impossible. And you know, we kind of walk around free today. And like, what do we do? Like, what would they think about our what would they think about our progress, and what would they think about how we are actioning on our everyday lives? Was the main thing that stuck out to me, and that I wanted to approach in the work. So, yeah, I don't know that answers to most of your question, you know, but that's like.
What about the title?
The title?
The title of the work.
Yeah, I mean, the title was, everything was wrapped up in that one thing. Like, you know, like what would they think about our progress? And the title of the work is Leave It All Behind. And It's
With a
another-
question mark.
With a question mark. Originally, you know, I wanted to be like ... because it's just like, you know, just a continuation thought of like, leave it all behind. And it's just an open-ended question, like, what do you think of when you read that? What do you think when you think about that? Leave it all behind. Do you go to the neighborhood, and when you go on this tour, do you leave it all behind? When you have this conversation with Sharonda, do you just leave it all behind? When she's giving these talks, and people are going out in the parking lot and say, okay, we're just gonna do this. They're doing that. And it's just a question not to anybody else, but to the people in this room and the people that want to be a part of it. It's a question of Black people, period. Like, leave it all behind. Is that what we're gonna do? And that's kind of like what we do in a lot of situations, in a lot of instances. You know, we get the ball rolling, and then our focus gets shifted somewhere else, and then we go to something else, and then the shift goes over here, and we never can like really finish out what we start. So that was a lot of it. You know, I spoke about my dad earlier, not doing the work, so like just tying that to like, you know, leaving that whole like part of my life behind, and just kind of really just dig into like, how can I be of service to the community outside creating work and creating art, because, you know, that's just one part of it, and it does a lot, and that's what got the ball rolling. But you really have to actually be actioning on things, finding your place within the community, like organically, which I think is important to me, at least, like not trying to like force it, like just listening to what Sharonda actually wants, like listening to what Priscilla is actually posing, and like, you know, even Avalon, you know, she's, you know, from there. So it's like, what are y'all actually trying to do, and how can I step in and lend myself of service in any type of way? So I'm not going back and being, not honoring what I'm actually trying to say and what I'm doing in my work anyways. So yeah, that's how the name came about, and, you know, my main thought process about creating the work.
You got some feedback about the name, didn't you?
Yeah, I got feedback from some of the people some of the community members about the name, just kind of like wanting to understand more. I try not to explain too much. I want people to kind of dig into it and find their own answers within the work. So it's like, if that's what you think that I'm saying, then that says a lot. Like, because that's what people are literally doing. Like, that's what it is. Like, this is it. It's just point blank and simple, like, period. Like, nothing else. Like, that's what's happening. So I think they just they wanted more information and understanding of like where I was coming from, because they're like, that's what we're trying to do. Like, we're actually trying to get people to come over here and like listen. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Like, I'm trying to like tell you, like, I'm gonna tell you to your face, like, you're just you don't care.
Right.
And that's just straight up. And me too. I'm not saying like I'm better, because I stayed across the street too and didn't care. So like, what are we doing? And so that was, you know, kind of the conflict that I was having with myself and the whole name, and try to make it stay within the way I intended it.
How did that translate materially? There's a couple images cycling through. This is Brooklyn's work.
Materially, so the work is made out of wax. So they're made out of wax. Then I took actually molds of like some of the actual bricks from the streets that Sharonda so graciously gave to me to make them with, and you know, wax is candle making in a sense, and wax and stuff has always been a part of my past and something that I've done like for work. And I've always wanted to like, when you're working like on something like so monotonous, like if you've ever had a job where you like done something and your mind just drifts into this like different place, and you're just doing it over and over again, you just start thinking of things. So like the conception of that happened then. I'm like, oh man, what else can I do with this? And I'm just like making this one thing, and no one else is like thinking like, oh, this could be something else. So like that probably was like 2014, 2015. So like I've always like wanted to do something with wax and like figure it out, like how can I do this? And this opportunity came about. And you know, when I was on a tour with Sharonda, she was telling the stories, and then even, you know, Avalon told the story about how, you know, some of the structures in the neighborhood were burned down. And that was a way that, you know, people were forced out of the neighborhood back then. And Sharonda can tell the story better than I can, because, you know, it was really just a tactic and a motive to like really drive people out of Fourth Ward once they built it back up. And, you know, it didn't push the people out of the neighborhood. everybody stayed, they band together, they came back, and they rebuilt and they stuck together. And so with the work and with the wax, if you if you light a candle and you burn it, it evaporates and goes away. But if you take the vessel that is in the way and you just light like a pillar candle or anything like that, like it melts down. But when that wax is done at the bottom, you can actually pick it back up, remold it, reshape it, and rebuild it again to something else. So that was a thought process that I had with creating this work. And then on top of that, Mitch wanted me to like incorporate the wick within the work, and I was like, nah. Like immediately, I knew I didn't want to do that. And it's so like remedial, kind of, but wicks are usually white, right? So once white people were added to the neighborhood, you ignite that flame. What happens? It's gone. So no wicks for the bricks.
No wicks for the bricks. Avalon, so you didn't make an artwork, but you wrote a poem for Nate's film, Hold It Close, Don't Forget, that's entitled A Call Home. Could you talk about your experience working on Nate's short film that I think really anchors, in some ways, thinking about the future and the present of Freemanstown? You can kind of see a still right there, perfect timing. Could you talk about that?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So the poem that I wrote for this short film is titled Call to Home. And so how I started this was basically I got an email from Mitch, and he was like, hey, Nate is wondering if you'd be down to do a poem for this. And I was like, yeah, I am down. And then Nate reached out to me, and the video wasn't done yet, but he did have like a short clip from it. And so the clip was kind of similar to like that still we just saw. So Sharonda holding up the brick, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I think I was looking at it on my phone and then writing on my laptop at the same time. And like I was in a meeting at Bryce when he sent me that, but I saw it and I was like, wow, this is like one of the coolest things like ever that I've seen. And I was like, yeah, I feel so much inspiration from this. Like I started writing it right then and there. And we ended up using that first draft too, which is crazy. That's something I never do. But yeah, Call to Home. So when I saw that image of these residents holding on to bricks, and these bricks kind of look like they're pulling them up, and I was like, okay, so these bricks, they're powerful, they're strong, they're pulling these residents up, but where are they pulling them to? That was my question when I first saw that. So I was like, they're pulling them to home. That's what I felt, that's what I saw when I saw that. I was like, these bricks are pulling these residents to their home. And well, what is home? And then I started thinking about, I guess like the origins of Freemanstown and how these freed people built their own home. And then just also the idea of that history of like being like a freed enslaved person. What was your home before that? And then this idea of creating a new one. And then also like a lot on my mind was the erasure of Freemanstown. And so I think I was just thinking about this idea of home, these bricks, pulling them somewhere that's stronger than them, more powerful than them, more powerful than, I guess, like the gentrification or like the erasure of the history and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where the title came from.
I think it also thinks about the importance of spirituality. Like a call to home, going home in Black culture means going on to be with the Lord. Going on to a place that's, if you're not Christian, better than where you are right now.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to think about the bricks carrying residents, carrying, the folks in the video, 4 different generations of Freemanstown folks off to a new place. I think Nate was also thinking about is how he kind of described it, right?
Yeah.
Like all of the controversy around the bricks being evidence of survival, but also a point of contention. What's this sort of tension between preservation and renewal, gentrification and urban development, and there's a lot of frustration, I think.
Yeah.
And Sharonda, you started to speak to some of that, the letdowns, right? The 10 different different type of master plans that you've seen come in and out that have failed and flopped, right? And I know you've also named that this won't be the last project to come to Freemanstown. And by the grace of God, you live to see all the things that you want to happen. Could you talk about Nate's film? Because you star in so many different people's work in this exhibition, in addition to creating work and co-curating the show. Give it to us.
Wow. So, I just want to thank, Mitch Stevenson, because first of all, like, he is a genius. Like, he really is. Like, the things that he saw for this show, like, we was like, what? Shut up, that don't make sense. But it did make sense, like, and I'm a visual person, so like, you can explain. I'm just like, I have to see it. And so my actual piece, I've actually wanted to, because I don't want people to look at my community as, look what they done lost this and they done lost that. Like, no, that's not the story. The fact that we are still here is the story. And so, like, to me, it's too much focus on what we don't have, and instead of us maximizing what we do have. So the fact that we have the Gregory School that has the same historic designation as the Alamo, and so, like, we have it, and it's, in my opinion, it's greatly underutilized. For everyone in Houston should at least do something at the Gregory School. They're just awesome exhibits. Galleries. It's just like, it's awesome, and it's another like hidden gem, like no one even knows about it. So this particular piece, I know of a carnival. It's called De La Rock, and so I went to like try to find information about it. And so this, once again, this is one of those phantom subjects. Couldn't find anything. And I was just like, I know this happened. This is another Freemanstown thing. I know it happened, but why can't I find any information? And so I had to dig. No, I actually had to call a researcher. Her name is Ray Bryant. And I was just like, look, I'm trying to find something about this carnival and I can't find it. And she was just like, oh, it's such and such so and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, what? Like, she just knew it off her head. Like, oh, you gotta go to the Houston Daily Post and such so and just send an email like, it's 93 mentions of it and this, that, and like, and I was just like, well, thank you, like that. So I'm gonna go read every last one of them. And she was just like, and I know you are, because people don't even read emails. And so I go and that's what I do, y'all. Like, I'm an avid reader. Like, I read everything. So, and because I can't say that they tricked me if it's in the email and I didn't read it, so I make sure I read everything. So as I'm going through the Houston Daily Post, the archives, I'm actually trying to recreate an advertisement for the carnival. And I couldn't find the advertisement of the carnival, and she couldn't find one either. And so what I did was, with the articles that I read, I just read of the different events that happened. And so since I couldn't find the actual advertisement of the carnival, I was just like, well, I could just make one off of what the article said that happened at the event. And so, like, the fact that this grand carnival ran from 1909 to 1920, it was awesome, y'all. When I actually got just more information on it and how it went from the train station to Emancipation Park, like they did a flower parade, and then another parade from Emancipation Park to West End Park, which is in Freemanstown. And so the fact that this was something of this magnitude that traveled downtown Houston to Third Ward, back to Freemanstown, and it was a weekly thing, and that they put whole committees and things, and they did that because they were not allowed to participate in the Houston annual celebration. And so instead of begging for inclusion, instead of boycotting and doing things of that nature, no, they actually created their own carnival, and it was actually called the De La Rock Industrial Expo. Like, and I'm just like, what? They were doing expos back in 1909? I'm just like, so there's nothing new up under the sun. And so, like, I know if you all don't research too much, researching is everything. Like, the stuff they used to put in the newspaper, y'all, was crazy. It'll say, Sharonda walked down the street and went to Miss Janie's house, and Miss Janie went there in the newspaper, y'all. The little story is phenomenal. It's like, it's a whole, like, and I'm just telling y'all, like, if you would go into the archives, you're gonna find just amazing stories. And so, like I said, I was in the archives finding like little different articles or whatever, but as I'm finding different things, I'm just seeing the camaraderie of the free men and women, like what they did. So they, of course, it was a committee because it was a grand thing. And so what they did was they actually did a deal with the railroad company for different people from all over Texas coming to Houston for this carnival. So it wasn't just for us, like it was a nationwide thing, and like black people came for something to celebrate for them. And it's just phenomenal, just like with the black people coming together to get the money to purchase Emancipation Park. You know, for it to be the oldest park in Houston, for us, it was purchased for us to be able to celebrate. And so it is just my opinion that if we get back to those things, like building each other up and stop worrying about if I give you $1, this dollar gonna make you a millionaire. I am honored that my dollar made you a millionaire. I am honored that anything that I can do to sow into you to make you better, I am honored to do that. And I just believe that we should get back to pouring into each other, pouring into our youth. You know, it's so many times like we just throw everything away. I call this the popcorn generation, the microwave. Everything is just instant. When it's like, no, like the world doesn't work like that. Like everything has to be birthed and born. And out of this project, you know, I birthed another example of greatness of our people. Something that was hid, something I had to go dig in the archives to find. But when I found it, I found the greatness. And so the carnival actually was celebrating the different harvests of cotton harvest, pecans, like just anything that came in, and they didn't want us to celebrate in it. And so what I did was I actually got a cotton flower and I mounted it on a Ferris wheel, because yes, they had Ferris wheels, they had merry-go-rounds, they had all those things, because what happened was the white citizens had their own celebrations, and what the committee did was they just hired the same acts that was at the white celebration. So you don't want us to come, but we can just pay them to come to ours, and then we don't even have to come to yours, you know. And so I just love that, and I wanted to highlight I wanted to highlight the fact that it was an African American carnival. So in one of the articles, it said that the official badge was a button with a picture of an African American kid on it. You know, and so it symbolizes that this is for them. And so that picture that's on there, that's actually my nephew, because in the short film, like everyone in the short film is my family. It's my sister, my grandson. Yes, I'm a grandma. My grandson is in the film. My godson, but my little nephew, he was too good. He didn't make the cut. And so I just added him on the front of the Ferris wheel to be like, you know, like this is your carnival and your celebration. And on the side of it is an actual newspaper, actual article from the Daily Post archives of a football game that was played between Wiley College and Prairie View. And so like it's a big extravagant football game and flower parade, just all kind of things celebrating the free men and women and things that they did. And I just love the fact that they just didn't beg for inclusion. They actually created their own thing. And, you know, and people, you know, everyone came to their thing, you know, and I just love the fact that for the piece, I wanted an interactive piece, so my Ferris wheel spins, and I encourage everyone to spin it, because, you know, everything is so hands-off in the museum. And so, you know, because, you know, it's a carnival, so, you know, I wanted an interactive piece. And so this is my first artwork that I actually created. And so I call myself a bootleg artist, because, you know, I draw and I paint and I do little different things, but nothing on a level that I could be put, you know, in a museum or anything like that. Not even thinking. Until now. Right. Not even thinking that it could be. And like, you know, someone dropped out of the show and was like, hey, Shawan, you want to be in the show? And I'm like, yeah. Like, as if I'm going to make something phenomenal. And I did.
And it starts the exhibition off. And it thinks about Juneteenth as well, which is a wonderful starting point, right, for a show that's about Freemanstown. I'm curious about Juneteenth. Like, I want to open the conversation up to kind of connect us to larger Black cultural phenomena, right? Juneteenth became a national holiday during a very charged political year. Do you think that because of its importance in the history of Juneteenth, right? Juneteenth becoming a holiday, do you think the sort of national recognition, local recognition, international recognition of the neighborhood in a real way will follow that?
I do, because for so long, you know, Juneteenth was just our story. But like literally, I've learned that everyone that had a enslaved moment had a Juneteenth of some sort. And the fact that now, once again, it's commercialized and it's monetized, you know.
And
so-
white people get the day off.
Right, and not just white people.
Everybody gets the day off.
Right, and so, you know, we got to take, you know, but, so my point is, so many things with us, we always want to react to, you know, and so they done made Juneteenth a national holiday, but no, what we should have been doing is we should have been trademarking things that can come back for us to actually benefit. That's what we should have been doing, and we should not have been in our feelings because we didn't get reparations and we got Juneteenth. We should have been programming, we should have been acting and stop reacting. And so my thing is, we be in our feelings too much, and I tell people, this is my saying, y'all, get out your feelings because there's no money in there. There's no money in your feelings. There's no progress in your feelings. Like, you know, only you are in your feelings. Only you. Only you.
I feel like that was personal. I'm a Pisces. I took that personally. There's no money in my feelings. Good grief.
And so what we need to do as a culture is let's get ahead of things. And so if we don't want them to monetize Juneteenth, let us monetize Juneteenth. You know, okay, we have it now, and so let's maximize our holiday. You know, stop going all out for the 4th of July. You know, go all out for Juneteenth. Plan family outings on Juneteenth. Like, so let us celebrate our holiday, because if we don't, we know what's gonna happen to it. We know what's gonna happen to it. We're gonna have them doing other things, and then what? We're gonna be right back in our feelings again. And so I am actually, you know, because Texas was actually the first state to recognize Juneteenth in 1980. They called it Emancipation Day, you know. And so the fact that the Lone Star State recognized it before anyone else, you know, see, in the 80s we should have been on it. We should have been on it, you know. And so, like, personally, I love that it is a national holiday, and I love that now it's just not our story, and it belongs to everyone. And so one of our good friends, Reginald Allen, and now he's actually taking his Juneteenth thing and it's going all over the United States, when it was just a Texas story. And so to me, that's progress. And that's, so now our story is just like, you know, because we're not the only freedmen's town in the United States. Actually, there's so many freedmen's towns in the United States. Ours is just the one that is still here and that we can still celebrate. And so my opinion is that we just need to maximize our holiday and let everyone else see us celebrating.
Berlin, you're a reverse migrant. So of course, in the process of participating in the show, you're navigating the city. What does it feel like to move around the city right now? Things look, obviously, I'm sure, you know, a lot different than they did when you were younger. What are your thoughts on Black Houston today?
I think it's amazing. I think it's the best it's ever been. I think you do a good job of like leading that charge. You know, everyone at Sandman. You know, there's so like back in even when I first met Mitch, I met Mitch like 12 years ago, and it was I don't know if it was at Blacksmith. Maybe it was at Blacksmith, but it's one of my earlier memories. And I always like, you know, look at people's shoes. Even tonight, you know, I'm just looking at what people wearing. You know, you got some Vapes, you got some Yeezys, you got, you know, some different things. I see some like nice little, you know, garbs going on. And so that is like a rare thing. Like back in 2012, like to see somebody with like some comb on or something like crazy, or like inside of like something outside of Houston was like rare. So you would always connect with people. And now I think like, you know, obviously social media and all that stuff, everybody's more aware, but I think it's at the heights of it as it can be. Like I think everybody's like, no, we need to like actually get on this and do things now. And you know, everybody's aware they want to be a part of it, and you don't have to go to New York or LA or wherever to be a part of it. You can be right here, and it's like a lot going on within the city that you can be a part of. So I think it's what's happening now is like the best thing. It's all anytime I'm not here, I'm like FOMO when parties are happening or things are going. I'm like, damn, I should be there. So you know, and now you know, just being back like after 6 years of not like being in Houston. You know, when I first moved from Houston, I was staying like on Cavalcade and 45. And now, you know, you go in the neighborhood now, it's a lot of white people live over there. My apartment was $645. Like now it's like $1,300, $1,400 just to get, you know, an apartment over there. I'm like, who's buying it? Like, who's living over there?
Yeah.
Like, I barely was affording that at the time. So this is like, I can't even like understand. And even if you go around anywhere on 610 and on the Loop, like it's all gentrified. And I was just having a conversation, you know, just now with someone in the Uber, like there's more people that are moving to Houston. There are more people that are doing things, and you know, connecting back to like what I said earlier, like what we think about progress, connecting back to what Sharonda said about Juneteenth, like what are we doing? Like it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Like they doing it right under our nose if you don't see. But you know, what are we doing? Like what are we? We're still kicking it. We're still just like, you know, going on our day-to-day things. So I come back, it's like a stark difference. It's like, yo, like this is crazy. And it's moving at such a rapid pace, like you just, the change and the nature of the city. And if you're not paying attention like super close and like not tapped into like what's really happening, and just, it's all in front of you. It's all out in the open, nothing's hidden. And it's all about what you want to pay attention to and what you want to like focus on. So, you know, I think it's important, you know, what Sharonda just said about Juneteenth is important. You know, everybody getting involved with their community is important. You know, people having a re-gentrification to, you know, black neighborhoods is an important thing. So, you know, we have to just keep pushing it and actually be the ones who are coming under Sharonda, under Priscilla, to actually keep building on that. You know, what you're doing, Avalon, this show, all speaks to what's happening in the city right now and what's happening in the black communities around town.
I appreciate that you mentioned getting involved in your community. In Avalon, I'm curious about what compels you to use your voice to uplift your community beyond your position, right, as poet laureate, right, which is massive and a huge accomplishment. But could you talk about maybe your vision for your work and for Freemanstown? What's your vision for Freemanstown? And then we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, so my work and my vision for Freemanstown, so I'm also a student fellow for the Contemporary Arts Museum and Houston Freemanstown Conservancy collaboration. So with that, I'm conducting research for Freemanstown, and I'm supporting the artists in residence for this program. So I think for that, and I was talking with Mission Sharonda, and I was telling them like, the way that I work, or the way that I like to process this research is like through my writing and is like creatively, because I feel like just as someone who's researching this place and as someone who has like seen a lot of these things, I mean a lot of these things I haven't seen because it happened before I was here, but like just seeing them now, outside my window or whatever, I feel like taking like the research and that information and then like just processing it creatively, like through poetry or creative writing, or whatever, like that's kind of my way of like connecting it to self, because that's just how I roll, that's just how I process things, that's what makes sense to me. And I feel like also what's unique about translating like research and like dense papers like into poetry is it makes it more accessible to others as well, because I know, like I was telling Mitch, like I'm like, as a sophomore at Rice, like I'm like so busy and I'm so tired writing essays and reading like stuff. I mean, like it's
Academic
important.
voice,
Yeah, it's important and I do enjoy it, but at the end of the day, like it's, I think it truly is like a privilege to be able to jump onto this team and I guess kind of ask for permission, like, can I do this in a different way? And they're really supportive of that. So I think, yeah, and it brings community together too. I feel like, in a way, like just presenting things more artistically and creatively, like it brings people together more, because like spoken word, it's like you need an audience to listen to that. Whereas like if I were to like publish an article or something, it'd be like, it's up to people to find it. But also, I think like for me, like my vision for like what Freemanstown could be or anything like that, when you ask that, like I think about my position as a stakeholder for the Freemanstown committee, and like once a month we meet with Houston Public Works, and we kind of talk about ideas for how we can ethically fix the brick roads and stuff. And then it's really complicated stuff, and like I'm learning a lot, so I'm really grateful to be in that room and be in that space. But also like I'm the youngest person on that team, like I'm the youngest person there, so I feel like just hearing from like the residents who've like been here for a while, that's really inspiring to me. And then, but yeah, I think like just being a member of that team, like it makes me think like, wow, like this place is really important, and it's not something that I just want to like let go of, because I feel like it'd be really easy for me to like leave it all behind, because you know, like my family's not from there, and like now like I'm off in college, and like, you know, like I'm living on campus, and like, you know, I come home like every now and then and stuff, but like, you know, like it's like it would be easy for me to just like forget about it or whatever, but like I choose not to, because like I meet these people, and like I have a connection with them, and I'm learning a lot from them. And like I see like the work that they're doing, and like the I feel like it really instills like hope into like the next generation, and I feel like this is something I could potentially inherit. So I feel like right now like I'm just doing the work to connect with the community, and I do that artistically, and so like hopefully like in the future I'll be able to use those connections for like when the time comes, like I can carry on with their work.
Incredible. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much for doing this. All three of you for your insights and for your passion and your knowledge and for sharing with us. I want to open up for questions, and I can bring the mic to you if you have a question. Otherwise, just stand up and project your beautiful voice. Does anyone have a question for our esteemed panelists? Billion has a question.
Hi, I'm
You need the mic?
No, it's okay. Thanks for being here. That was a beautiful talk. I love hearing all of your different perspectives. I kind of wanted to ask Shimon this question. When you say economic power, like building economic power, I sometimes, because I've heard that a lot, especially with like my work in third ward sometimes, and like I hear that, and I'm like, okay, I want to know what it looks like. I think maybe it's because maybe my generation were a little bit more detached from the people who created that terminology. So I kind of want to know what that would look like for Freemanstown. If you could give us a few examples.
So the first way is ownership. One of the reasons why we are still in the community is because of ownership. So the Freemanstown Association owns the property that I office out of, that I sit in. And so with ownership, like that is like the first step into economic development, because with ownership, that means you actually have a stake in what goes on in your community, where is so much that renters and others, like, you know, you don't have to listen to a renter, you know, and I didn't make the rules, and it's set up like the way it is. And so ownership and actually wanted to participate in the development, because of mistrust and things that are out of our control. A lot of things, when we hear things that are not familiar to us, we want to be standoffish. And I just feel like we can't continue to stand by and let others continue to gain momentum, gain, you know, wealth, and gain things, and while we standing back, you know, waiting on, you know, the Lord to come save us, because faith without works is dead. And if you don't work, He is not coming to save you. And we need to look within, you know, to kind of put ourselves on that pedestal, because without economic inclusion and development, like, you have no community, and it has nothing to do with ethnicity. You know, that's in every community. And so it's just my opinion that if we actually, you know, participate in economic development, that, you know, we can, you know, be at a better position.
Thank you, Sharon. Does
Does anyone else have a question? Cam has a question.
Hi, I'm Cam. I am a Houston transplant from Richmond, Virginia, and as you were speaking, the energy of the city is extremely inspiring. I myself am from Richmond. It was the capital of the Confederacy, lots of history, lots of gentrification, as is the case. But my question to you, Sharonda, was, as you were speaking about, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, De La Rock?
No.
Okay, because I went to Cam and I was looking at it, I was like, I've never seen that word before. And it was only after I was flipping through Amari's binder and I found this article about, there were a lot of different words that were spelled backwards. Loyal, I was like, loyal, okay, Houston, backwards. In your work with this carnival and play, why do you think the inversion of those words was a part of like the institution of this festival?
Really, I think they were making fun of the festival they were excluded from. And because like they spelled everything backwards, and so not only did you not include us, we're gonna make our own, and we're gonna do the same thing that you did with the same acts for our people. And so like, and I don't know if this is true, but that was my observation. It's because I think that particular one went on for 10 years without African American being included. And finally, they just went on and made their own. And to just poke fun, like, we can do it too.
Literally flipping it on his head.
Yes.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Okay. In your research, because undergrad, I did like digital archival work, and I'm talking about scanning Byzantine Empire books. It just, I was like, who wants this stuff? Somebody's gonna randomly call and like, do you have the? So, in that research with that lady who was mentioned like 3 times, around that time period, was color considered like derogatory? Because I was also wondering, is that why the word was inverted?
No, so actually, colored and Negro were used interchangeably.
Okay.
And so basically, so here's the thing. So the fact that they were printing about color stuff in the white newspaper. And so like we have to, that's how I look at stuff. Like I try to flip the optimism of what is actually what it is. And so the fact, because it was something that was a grand thing that was put on to celebrate us, and they put it in their newspaper. And so then I don't think they did not want to put in the paper about us. They just wanted to celebrate us, not realizing that they were celebrating us with them.
Are there any more questions? We have room for one more.
Okay, so I know the Conservancy, like its mission is to preserve the rich history of Freedom Sound for future generations and such. But in y'all's opinions, all adults, which is up to all of you, what does the future of Freedom Sound look like? Does that look like something tangible? Is that an idea? Is it a response? Is it a call to action? Is it a call to open up for displaced residents? What do y'all want that to look like?
So you actually summed it up perfect. It's a call to action, because the future of Freedomstown, it actually depends on what we do today, what we do tomorrow, what we continue to do for not just Freedomstown, but for Black culture in America.
Man, that's a tough one, because there's so many things that could be done. I can literally give everybody in the room an assignment right now and just be like, this is your assignment for the next 5 years to make this right for Freedomstown. So that's like kind of just one thing, just even Jack Yates House, and like where he's at right now. I'm not even gonna say where it's at, just do the research, and then you let me know how you feel about it. And that's just, like you said, it's a call to action. Like just let me know how you feel about it after you find out. It's just like crazy. Like you just, it's the future of Freemanstown. It's like I said, to me, it needs to be a reinterpretation. And a friend of mine, her name's Sophia, she came up with this word, and we were, right after 2020, it was during 2020, and like, we were hanging out, like just having like, just conversations, like what are we doing, how are we moving, and we were like, no, this is the time to reintricate, like we have to move to Freemanstown. Like I have to go over there and say, no, I live in Freemanstown, like move over here, because that's what you do when people say, oh, I live in Williamsburg, move over here. I live in this side of the town, move over here. No, you have to go move over there. And then, that's what's going to really shift the narrative, is actually, doing things like that. Like it's actually bringing businesses back to the neighborhood. It's actually just, it's a call to action. Like, what are you going to do? And it's, are we going to just leave it all behind and just let people keep taking? Because they're building $650,000 homes over there every day. Or, we can try to stop that progress as much as we can, and do what we can to bring and shed more light to the neighborhood. And it doesn't have to be anything grand. It's farmers market, this thing, whatever, talks, walks, just being over there, doing what Black people do, just kicking it. It's nothing grand. It doesn't have to be anything grand or crazy. So I think when I think about what the future of Freemanstown looks like, I think about grand ideas, and I think about like this crazy world of like all these Black people living in these crazy, like architecturally beautifully designed homes, because like that's what we do, and it's by some of the people that live in this neighborhood, and it's following the same aesthetic and the same guidelines and things that the original, founders of the neighborhood intended it to be. That's, to me, what the future of Freemanstown should look like and feel like. It should be us wanting to spend the next 50 years doing that. I mean, and I'll leave it with this. I think, maybe it was the opening, maybe it was before the opening, and it really dawned on me having a conversation with Priscilla. And I'm 36, and she's, told me, she's like, how long did it take to, rebuild a community or rebuild a city or something like that? It was a community, and it was like, 50 years. And I was like, well, that's all I got. I got 1 year, I can do one thing a year maybe. Like, what can I do for the next 50 to really say that I helped, affect change in that community and really push to actually see everybody else after me be able to take advantage of the neighborhood in the way it was intended.
Yeah, going off of that, I think for me, what I see for the future of Freemanstown is a place that has been reclaimed, or a place where the history has been reclaimed and the history is known. Because just doing research for Freemanstown, like, it's so hard, it's so difficult, because there's so much stuff that's like not documented, and most of it is like purposely not documented. But just being able to like do research, like with CAM and the Conservancy, or even like last year when I was doing research for Rice, I think that's already like a good start, right? Really late start, but still good practice. But for me, what I'm hopeful for is to be able to see Freemanstown as a place that is recognized, and a place where the history is recognized as well. Because it's really like rich history, and a lot of people that are from Houston or like have been here like forever don't even know like what Freemanstown is, or like not even familiar with 4th Ward. They think it's Midtown or just stuff like that. So I think like for me, like for the future of Freemanstown, like I really want to see like just reclaiming it, just using the term Freemanstown, seeing the term Freemanstown in places outside of Freemanstown, and just and having that's why research is so important. Like, it's so important that we're doing this work, because like there's so much there. But yeah, I think that's what it's important to me to see for the future of it, because I think once we do like find more of that history, and once we like share more of that history and we spread awareness and stuff, I think that's when we can also like start rebuilding as well, and maybe we can have more of the like respect that we've deserved, like from the city of Houston, and just like I think what's really important is like letting that history be known.
And on that note, thank you so much to everyone who came out to spend time with us. Thank you again
knows how amazing